my life is really so like intricate and entertaining to me, even when it sucks. Like, yeah, I once heard this quote that like, you know, your life is like a movie. So if would you be bored by your own movie? You know, and I remember thinking, fuck yeah, I'd be bored by my own movie. Like just looking at the way I'm like repeating patterns and having the same fucking thoughts move through. I can say now for sure that like my movie's very entertaining to me. It's not boring, that's for sure, to me. So, and I'm the only one here. Anyway, so an example. Okay, so the two big things that I've been like involved in deeply with my family that kind of seem to symbolize like this completion of, you know, I told my mom about like her being in front of my energy and feeling like it was a protection that I needed to release it, and how I kind of felt it as a limitation at times, but I also was, you know, scared to be without it. You know, I realized all of a sudden, and she said, "Well, I'm your mother. Like, there's never a time when that shouldn't be the case. Like protecting. Oh yeah, no, it doesn't end, but it's like you're beside me rather than in between me and the world. You know, and it was really sweet. I just know that this whole idea of like leaving the nest, like I've lived on my own and made money and, you know, had separation from my parents like many times, but I keep coming back, and I realized that this time, one of the reasons I stayed home, even though there were times where I just, like I almost moved to Portland, I thought I was gonna start just traveling for my show, but I don't know, I just know that I'm meant to be here and really dissolve like whatever keeps me from being able to be at peace around my parents, and also feel both guilty for not being what I think they want, or not being here, and then feeling stifled or like enmeshed, you know? So learning to be with both. So the two big things are like this house that we're in the dining room now, that I spent my adolescence in, and the store. So there was a store on the Eastern Shore of Maryland. My parents bought it thinking it'd be like their kind of final store, and that it would be easy, like it's in kind of the country. And my grandmother and a lot of my uncles live there. So they thought it would be like, you know, getting close to the family and a country store. Well, it ended up being like the most difficult business they've managed. It was like, yeah, it's full of like wife beaters and crackheads and people who steal, and it was a laundromat, a gas station, a deli, a convenience store, and so like my whole family worked like all the time, and yeah, it was like a war between the customers and the workers. You know, people would just never show up, and yeah, it was a lot of running around, and I decided that I moved to Korea after college, and when I spoke to my parents while they were running the store, it just sounded like I could hear them aging. And when I came back, I was like, you know, I can figure out what I want to do with the rest of my life for the rest of my life, but like, I feel like my parents were at this point where like, if you stress your body too much, it can't turn back, it can't recuperate. And anyway, so I decided, you know, I would stay with them at the store until it sold. And so I was there for 3 years, and while I was there, I started learning how to sell real estate on the side, and then, yeah, selling real estate for a year while working there on the weekends still, and then going to DC to learn about commercial real estate, because I was like, I hated selling real estate, but I was like, well, I can make money and then be more interested if it's intellectually more stimulating and higher numbers and travel. So then I was going to go to do commercial real estate, and then I thought, oh, why don't I go to law school? Because I've always like been interested in law, and this way I'll have like a leg up in a male-dominated industry where I have no context yet. And then one day I was like, this is not who I want to be. Like, and then I decided to go to art school. So anyway, that store, I ended up finding a buyer for it, and we sold it. And but it's a gas station. Land had been was contaminated before we bought it, and we've run into environmental stuff. So it's been this like saga for like the last couple years, and it's very nuanced, and my, you know, dad doesn't speak English that well. I mean, enough to read like contractual environmental stuff about underground storage tanks. And so it's kind of been up to me to like work on this, and it's just been, yeah, it's been stressful. And we just want to sell the store, but there's this hanging over it. And since we've sold it, because it was really hard to run, but it was really successful when we had it, it was like, yeah, worth over $1 million. And now it's like gone down to like half that, because every other person that's managed it since us can't seem to do it well. It happens with all our businesses. That's how you know things are energetic. I mean, my family all work very hard, but it's also an energetic thing. It's like, yeah, it's not all about location or the recession or whatever. So anyway, we were finally had a settlement date for October 3rd, and I was a little bit uneasy about it. I was like this would be awesome, but it didn't feel real because the environmental thing we still hadn't heard back from the government about the latest round of tests. But I was like, maybe the tide is turning, like, you know, I'm doing this Airbnb thing with this house. I feel like the house might sell, and then the store will sell, and then I don't know, it's almost like I'll feel free knowing my parents are free. And I know, well, that's kind of what came up, that I can't think that way. Like, I'm free no matter what, and I can't feel like this has to be a certain way before I'm gonna be good, because that's how my dad feels. That's actually what's causing it. Oh, if only we sold, the house was gone, or if only this business was good. It's like, yeah, it's stuff I've been hearing you say that for 20 years. Like, then you buy another business, another house. And it's that whole thing of putting something outside of you when everything's happening now. So I got this email today that the state did come back, and they were like, yeah, even though all these tests were good and it doesn't show anything, we still want to keep having you do more tests. And it was like, fuck, are you serious? And so I was waiting, like, okay, who do I need to talk to first? And, you know, do I have to write a letter? And how do we deal with this? And when I checked in for guidance, because I knew that this is like, okay, can you hold your peace the way I've been learning to do without having money and like not having a plan? And like, can you do it even when you are engaging with something that seems very out of your hands and in the 3D? Can you really demonstrate what you teach and talk about, and not feel limited by something that seems so out of your hands? And the guidance I got was be still. So I was like, all right. And then on another note, so this Pelvic Heart class I really wanted to take at the end of October, and it's $1,000 with a sliding scale, but you know, yeah, I have no money, so, and I have debt, and so it's like, even saying I pay $100 is more than actually what I have, but it's like, you don't want to be insulting. So, but I felt like I really wanted to take the class. Everything has been about like this kind of creating from the womb space, feeling there, and allowing expression through the throat, through the voice and the heart. This like reconnection of these two centers, the life force energy, allowing it through. And so I all of a sudden thought, because they were saying that the venue was still unannounced, and so I was like, wait, you know, maybe I could offer to have it done here, and then that could offset some of the costs, and I could be offering something. And it just seemed like, what a perfect place to do a Pelvic fucking Heart 6-day thing, where we're going to be exploring, like, you know, sacred massage and breathing and like constellation work, and it sounds amazing, and this is the perfect sacred space to do it in. That's the intention of this space for me, really, you know. And so I wrote this email like saying all that, and then I was writing it to like one of the head facilitators who I know from this culture camp I went to a few months ago. And so I was saying, oh, and you know my journey into like coming home more deeply into myself. And so I described, you know, what this house represented, and you know, the experience I went through in my adolescence, and how it was all part of it. And then when I checked in whether to send it or not, I got a no. And so I read it again, and then for some reason I edited out that whole part, and I just made it really clean and was like, hey, I still don't have money for the program. I'm interested though. And I got this idea that, you know, what about having it here if you haven't decided on a venue? Okay. And then right when I was about to call so I sent that, and I felt really good. Like, you know, okay, I was inspired. I sent something, and if it works out, it works out. And if it doesn't, maybe I can take it next time, and at least I tried. When I was gonna call my dad, and I was like preparing myself to like not get annoyed and frustrated and stressed out because of having to explain or hear his concerns about this situation, I got a phone call from a number that I don't know, and I wasn't going to answer, but then the timing of it, I was like, all right. And it was another facilitator for the program, and she had gotten my email, which I guess I thought I'd send, I guess, to the administrative email. And she was like, yeah, you know, we actually have a venue for the house, but tell me about it anyway, and how much you can actually pay, and, you know, I'll run it by the other facilitators. So it felt good just to actually like check in one-on-one. And then I checked my email, and another person had replied to this thing about the house. And I realized I actually had sent this email not to the head facilitator or just to the administrative board, but to the entire email list that went to this culture camp, like 100 people. And I actually felt like I wanted to take it down because I was ashamed, because in the first part I said, you know, I still don't have money for the program, even with the sliding scale. And that just felt really, I don't know, like I'm a loser. Like, here's me begging. But then I was like, well, you know, it's being vulnerable. It's honest. It's where I'm at. And I realized that I'm telling people about this space that's available because, you know, maybe other people want to stay in this space because everyone stays at this other guy's space. He's really generous about it, and it's beautiful. And I haven't been there yet. But he's where I was going to ask him. I was going to visit to check it out, to maybe have my sex meet up there. And then I was like, well, I could do it here. So anyway, that was like a mistake for me to send to the group, but a universal save to have me at least edit it. So I'm not telling everyone that I had sex in this house, even though I'm doing it now. So that felt good. And then when I talked to my father, I was really able to, like, I felt definitely a wave of tiredness, but I actually remembered a good thing about this, which is if the new people buy it, they're going to put new tanks in. And so instead of doing new samples separately, which is very expensive, we could do it at the same time because the government agency always checks the soil anyway anytime the tanks are changed out, which I'm sure you guys are really interested in. Anyway, so I was like, you know, this could be perfect timing, you know, and we'll just have it done and clean, and the agency will be happy, and we'll know it's good. And the buyer can still buy it, you know, in a couple days. He doesn't need to wait. We'll be the ones responsible. So, and it just hit me that, like, I hated selling real estate, but that all of my, you know, all of your experiences make you who you are, and they're useful. Like, Mother Nature is efficient. And it hit me that, like, I'm able to handle this matter, and even the Airbnb thing and all of that, like, so easily because I have experience in this. And sometimes I forget that I'm, like, savvy with, like, the business world, like, because I feel like such a loser. And it was a reminder of, like, you know, I'm choosing not to be part of this game in the same way. And, like, it's not because I don't know how. And I think that's actually it. It's because I'm good at it that I think, you know, my parents and other people have such a hard time accepting that, like, I'm choosing to be in the position I'm in, because they think it's a waste. Like, you could be successful doing so many things, and why are you, not having, like, any cash in your pocket and living with your parents? So, and I think it's because it's about bringing that ability, you know, to create into, from a different energy, with a different energy. Again, like, not ignoring that world, but bringing the presence and kind of neutrality of having the bigger perspective, and that actually making it easier and more effective to deal with the day-to-day stuff.